Hey, welcome to the Coach Show tonight. We get to have. He was a senior, I think. My first year at Centerville as a coach. I've had him on the Coach Show in the past. Also, before we get diving in 100% here, Hadley Wolf wins the tightest sportsman award out of any kid that we've had in since the inception of the Sportsman Award, which is only 9 weeks ago, right? So it's but she wins it by 38 votes. So she must have more family in Lee County. Derek, is that you think?
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but she's definitely deserving of it, man. She's had a great week.
Yeah, and I just noticed you can only vote for one, and it shows who you voted for. So I think I gave a vote for each one of them. So because I don't want anybody butthurt, right? This isn't the butthurt show. So, hey, just real quick, Ben Fry.
Yep.
What do you think of Mike McCarthy going to Pittsburgh?
I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, I think McCarthy's a good coach. I think in Dallas, you're kind of handcuffed. Not to say handcuffed in a bad way, but I think Jerry Jones has his hands in that, in that franchise and his blood in it, and so he's going to make decisions. And I think McCarthy will have an opportunity to go to Pittsburgh and kind of be a CEO like Tomlin has been the past few years and be able to kind of put things going the way he wants. And I think you'll see Pittsburgh take steps forward in some areas. And yeah, so I'm a big McCarthy fan. I think it's a good move.
Okay. Derek and I, we're talking kind of prior to, and I'll get into Garrison here in a minute, but we were talking prior to, and I think he'll go at least 9-8. I don't know about you, Garrison. What do you think of Mike McCarthy?
I mean, I'm a Bengals fan, so I could care less, to be honest. Hope they lose every game.
Oh, good gravy. That's awesome that you would make that particular comment. It's very much appreciated. So football season's over for you then, kind of like it is for me, right?
Correct. I mean,
okay.
as over as it gets, right? Kind of a 2026. It's kind of a year-round deal, right? But.
Oh God, yes. Derek, I'm going to let you ask the first question, and then I'll think of some fun stuff, especially to throw in, because obviously Garrison did some things, and Coach Knott gave me some inside information. So I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man.
I was thinking,
Thanks. Loves to throw his curveballs.
Poured a coffee for this. Maybe I should have poured a whiskey before I started.
This is a. Never mind. It's not even G-rated tonight. All right, Derek, you got it.
Yeah, Coach. So first of all, thanks for being on. Love getting to talk to you. So just for our listeners here, take us back to the Centerville days, Simpson College days, kind of your story and how football shaped you.
Seymour days. I got to throw Seymour out there because they have days.
We'll they've had a few days. Yeah, I guess I kind of had a unique path to getting to football. I didn't play football actually until my sophomore year of high school. And was I was the 5'11" white kid basketball player that was going to make the NBA, and my life kind of flipped on its head. I actually, my parents got divorced and I moved to Centerville and thought, I don't know anyone in this town, might want to make some friends, thought about playing football, and ended up being a pretty good deal for me. So, parlayed that into some success and went on and played at Simpson, and then got my first head coaching job as a super unprepared 21-year-old right out of college, and went and coached the Fighting Seymour Warriors to a 4-5 record, and the rest is history. So
now, back to that Seymour days, did you score 100 points?
Did I? No.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever got to the 100 mark. We lost one 78-81. I remember that. We had, yeah. No, I never scored 100 points. I do believe, and to be honest, it might be getting old because some of these stories seem like a long time ago now. But so I've been at 5 schools, and 3 of them been as a head coach at 4 of them, and 3 of them taken over was 0-9 the year before, and Seymour was obviously one of those. And I believe the game before I got there was week 9 the year before, and they lost 112-0, which was at the point was the all-time state record, and I believe both coaches got fired. So
Dallas, was that Melcher
yeah,
Dallas?
Melcher Dallas ran it up on them. Yeah, so it was a way back machine. But.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm going to jump in for a quick question. Being a head coach at some pretty quality programs, making the playoffs as a head coach, and then coming into Creston, did that make you a much better assistant coach? Take us through that kind of process as well.
I mean, it probably depends who you ask. I'm sure if you ask our head coach, it'd probably be a big pain in his ass, but I think so. I mean, I guess, I tried, I was really, again, talking through my story and what kind of bits and pieces as we go. But before I was here, I was at a school called ADM in the Golden Circle, the Des Moines metro area. And we had a lot of success there. And one thing that was really good for me was I had 3 former Iowa High School Hall of Famers on my staff, Randy Schrader, Lyle Allenbaugh, Skip Eckhart, who all had 30 plus years on me. And basically all of their roles was just to tell me all the shit I was doing wrong every day. And which kind of goes probably into some of the things we're going to talk about, but, being able to swallow your pride and have that humility to realize you're not the smartest guy in the room, learn from them. It was really good for me. And then when I came here, not that I'm anywhere close to the level of those guys as far as experience or coaching expertise, but that's kind of what I've tried to bring here is just, if there's a mistake to be made, I probably made it along the way, but have learned a lot of things that I think put me in a unique spot to be a pretty good assistant coach. So.
When did you know? Yeah. When did you know that you wanted to get into coaching? Because that's always, the one thing.
I'm not very good at many things. So I knew at a pretty young age that I was going to need to be involved in sports. I'm not super athletically gifted. So that kind of eliminated playing it professionally. And I guess I never really, I remember my high school English teacher, Miss Fruing, telling me that you can't major in coaching. So apparently in high school, I was telling her that that's what I was going to do. But I figured out I could major in PE, which is pretty much majoring in coaching. And so that's kind of always been my path. I really have never considered doing anything else. I think my wife sometimes reminds me there's more money to be made out there, but this kind of, I think is my calling. So.
Isn't it weird that you you were a student under Bill Meserole and now you're working under Bill, not working, you know what I'm saying? Isn't that weird?
Yeah. I mean, it's life's, I mean, we, live in the state of Iowa and it's such a small world. And it just seemed, again, the more that I work through this path and end up at different schools, it just seems like everybody knows somebody. Right. And ironically, my high school principal is now the high school principal I work for at a different school. And it just happens to be in my wife's hometown, and so the stars always kind of aligned, getting out of the head coaching role was something that was obviously going to be hard to do. But God threw us a curveball when we had twins born on week 9 of was that against the Fighting Ben Fries? Might have been actually.
That was against me, and you guys still whooped us up pretty good.
Yeah, just one game in my career, and we had twins week 9, and so then all of a sudden we had 3 kids under 3, and it was time to be in the same community as family. And so the stars just kind of aligned where her family was here in Creston and obviously had some strong connections with her brother or my brother-in-law, her brother's on the staff here. And Creston had actually been in our district. So had built a decent relationship playing against those guys. And then obviously, if your high school principal won't hire you as a teacher, then you probably did something wrong. So everything's worked out really well and has put me in a good situation. So.
Didi.
Yeah. So you mentioned Coach Schrader earlier and big fan of him. Want to give him a shout out. And thankfully, because of you, I've been able to be in contact with him. Great dude. What are some of the lessons that you've taken away from him? Hi, Mom.
The biggest thing, well, first of all, that's my pitch. You guys have the wrong guy on this show. You should be talking to him. So if you ever can get him on there, I'll get back on and I'll quiz him for you. But, I think that the thing that so I took over for Coach Schrader actually at Washington. So I said I've been the head coach at 4 schools. 3 of them were 0-9. The other one was the complete other end of the spectrum that was coming off a state runner-up finish, and that was for taking over for Coach Schrader at Washington. And so that's how I got to know him. The thing that has always stuck with me about Coach Schrader is he's just, one, he's got an answer for everything, right? He's the guy that I can call at any point when anything's high, low, indifferent, and he's been through it, seen it. You know, he's worn every hat, and he has an answer for it. But the biggest thing that I take away from him, and I always try to install with all my teams, is he's a big believer on, if you can just do a little bit more, a little bit more, and you can compete for championships. And it's so true, and we talk about this a lot, especially now that the state of Iowa has gone to the, classes based more on socioeconomics and less on enrollment. I mean, Derek, the 3A football in Creston, Iowa is really not, I don't have different kids here than you have in Fort Madison than they have in Humboldt, right? Like, we're all dealing with kind of the same slightly above average, probably undersized athlete. And then it just becomes, okay, so what is those little edges that we can find, right? Can we just do a little bit more in the weight room? Can we do a little bit more with our leadership development? Can we manage practice just a little bit better? And if you can find the ways, in the margins to get a little bit better at all those things, I think you can compete for championships. And that's something that coaches not only stress, but has demonstrated, right? And had a lot of success at a lot of schools that didn't have a lot of success before he'd been there. So.
Benjamin Rooney says that's our guy. I appreciate you giving me the shout out, Ben. Just messing.
Okay.
Oh man. So go ahead, bud.
I was just going to say, so you've been a head coach, now you're an OC.
Mm-hmm.
How does your perspective change going from, running the whole thing to running one side of the ball?
Well, I should probably back up a little bit with that. So I walked into a perfect situation here, right? Coach Morrison gives me so much autonomy to essentially have free reign and do the things that we want to do. And then the biggest thing that we did is when I showed up here, we went full platoon of our program, and so so I'm really lucky. I'm a pseudo head coach of the offense, right? And so I have, coach obviously has the final say on all the things we're doing, but at practice, we're pretty split. And it's kind of been a good transition for me where, I still feel like I have a role. I still feel like I'm kind of in charge of my own little area. But then at 6 p.m. when I go home, I don't have to respond to emails, right? And I don't have to deal with some of the other bullshit that was certainly, occupying a lot of my time at some of the previous stops. So kind of a long-winded way to answer that. But this has been kind of the reinvigoration that I needed, just.
And for an offensive guy, you're not a bad dude. I'll just throw that out there. I'm obviously, like full-blooded defense / ground and pound dude, right? Couple years, you had a dang good offense a couple years ago, man. And you had a good offense, scheme this year. But you look at, riding that boat back then, right? Because, we're looking in the past a little bit, right? A couple years, but I kind of saw it to where if we both won one more game, Dede, we would have played each other in the playoffs that year. And that would have been like storybook shit, man. Pardon my French. I shouldn't say poop.
Right. I mean, I don't know. If you want a good read, The Perfect Pass, the kind of the story of Hal Mummy and the development of the air raid. And I'm not by any means an air raid guy, but I actually just finished it. And he had a great quote in there that he had very little respect for defensive coordinators because they were kind of like offensive coordinators, only 50 IQ points lower. So, but yeah, anyway, I mean,
I see what you did there.
It's a good quote. It's one of the first ones I highlighted, but I don't know. Yeah, we've been pretty successful offensively. I don't think we do anything special or unique. I think I'm really fortunate to have 3 great guys. And again, like I said, being platooned, we kind of have our 4 offensive guys and they have their 4 defensive guys. And we spend a lot of time together, from drinking beer on Thursday nights to hammering it out in the classroom all weekend. And those guys are super sharp and come up with some really good wrinkles off the things we do. And, I think that the thing that has allowed us to be successful is just, we don't get too stubborn in our ways. We led the state in rushing one year, and the next year we led the state in passing, and I think it's this high school football, right? You're at the mercy of the kids you have, and you get the ball to your best players and don't overthink it. So seems to work for us.
I also want to throw out there that you spearheaded kind of this this coach what's it called again, Derek? I think you're speaking at it.
Our coaches,
Yeah.
Southeast Iowa Coaches Clinic, man, it's huge. It's awesome.
Yeah, without you, I'm just going to throw that out there. Without you, that thing wouldn't have the success that it has today.
Well, it wouldn't exist, I guess. But,
exactly.
But again, that's not. I mean, like everything, right? I can't take all the credit for it, and that actually came from Coach Knott, who was my high school coach, and was down there at Centerville, and they kind of had this idea of maybe we could bring a clinic to this area, and then he left, and I mean, he'll probably deny this till the end of time, but I'm pretty sure he got into the admin life, and I think he fills his coaching fix vicariously through me still. So kind of urged me to, take that and run with it. And it's been a fun thing. It's just, I mean, that's what I love about the coaching aspect of it, right? Is it's just a community. Like I'm sitting here talking to you guys tonight, and that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about running that clinic is I get the opportunity to meet 30 to 40 new super high level guys that come in and speak every year. And now all of a sudden I have a new number in my phone book. It's like, oh shit, I remember that guy talking about, 3x1 passing concepts 3 years ago. I can reach out to him and say, I'm having this problem. And so selfishly, it's been a really great resource for me. And then on top of it, it's just kind of a great way to network and grow the game, and hopefully get people excited about talking football in April. So
and I want to say thank you for not blocking me.
You're welcome.
I'll go ahead and jump in. Yeah. So you've been at a lot of different programs. You've had a lot of different experiences. I know you're a big culture guy. You've shared a lot with me. What are some of the biggest culture killers, in your opinion, that you need to eradicate as you're building a program?
Well, I think that, and we fight this everywhere, but sometimes you're at the mercy of where you're at. But I think the biggest hurdle for me is this is the way we've always done it. And I'm like, to a T, the opposite of this. I don't give a shit if that's what we've always done. I don't give a shit if this is what we did last week. I think that there's always a better way to do things. And it gets me in trouble at times. I will be the first to tell you that I certainly know that I push the limits and I rub admin wrong at times. But, I just think that you have to always be looking. Again, it goes back to what we're talking about with Coach Schrader, right? You always have to be looking for that little way that you can improve and that little edge you can find. And so I think just leadership wise, it comes down to that, right? Again, if you want new things, you got to do new things, so and change your result. So that's where I'd start.
And I've heard rumors that that you wouldn't allow pockets, right? You wouldn't allow pockets with your assistant coaches, man.
It's another Coach Schrader thing that I took from Washington. It's can't coach without a whistle. You can't coach with your hands in the pockets, right? So I've leaned up on that. I think you want to know when I really leaned up on that is when my wife was 8 months pregnant with twins, and we were in the middle of the coaching season. It's like, oh shit, I better have my cell phone in my pocket. But the big thing is just get your hands out of your pockets, right? And it goes back to that attitude that we want to always establish, at least in programs I've been part of, is I always feel like energy is contagious, right? And it has to start with your coaches, right? And I always felt like as a head guy, you can start with me, but it really comes from those assistant coaches, right? And if they're showing up to practice 3 minutes before we start and they got their hands in their pockets during warmups, then if I'm a kid, what kind of message is that sending, right? And so I've always been really fortunate to be around guys that just love football and never had to worry about them they were always the first ones on the field, right? They were always taking extreme ownership of their drills. And I just think, that's where that kind of stemmed from. But yeah, if you want a tangible way to say you got to coach with energy, you can just say you can't have your hands in your pockets and you can't coach without a whistle. So.
I love that story, but I'm kind of an old fart, right? I remember Knott used to let us have pockets, but we didn't. I don't even think I had a cell phone when I first started practicing, guys.
Well, you guys were still wearing cotton shorts and
we, leather helmets and shit like that.
The shorts you guys were wearing long enough to have pockets, Banks?
Dude, no, I was never a part of the freaking short generation, man. I'm not that old.
Or now you got to be young. You want to get on that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine because I remember Jim McCord and Roger Campbell in those shorts, and it just didn't look very good, man.
Yeah, Chucky, you would have made it look good, though, I think.
Yeah.
Oh shit, no, man.
Don't give him any ideas, please.
No.
Okay. So, as an offensive coordinator, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how do you balance what you want to run versus what your kids have the ability to run?
That's kind of a loaded question, I guess. I think that I don't really ever want to run things that are maybe outside of their limits, but just kind of I got to think through that answer on the fly a little bit here. I guess, we always start super nuts and bolts. And I said earlier that I'm not an air raid guy, and I'm not. But I do carry a lot of principles from the air raid stuff. In the fact that we're going to be very minimal scheme wise, like we're never going to have more than 3 or 4 run schemes. We're going to keep it really super simple in our passing game, but we're going to run that out of a ton of different formations. And I think that that's where we can get creative. Like last year, if you look through our personnel we had on the field, we had like 14, 15 different skill kids that were playing a lot of reps for us. And so that's, I think, how we get creative with our kids. I've never been blessed. I shouldn't say that. I guess when I was at ADM, I coached the 2 fastest kids in the state, but I've never been super
I had
blessed.
a team against them. They were difference makers.
I've never been blessed with a ton of guys that took the top off of defense. So as far as like shots down the field, I feel like those have always been more schemed up as opposed to just run by guys. And so we really haven't had a situation where we're trying to see something or do something that our kids haven't been able to execute. We always, I guess, kind of put it back on us as, okay, so how can we get that kid open? What do we need to do to get this kid in space? So on and so forth.
What do you look for in a defense where you're like, okay, you know what? That's I'm going to be able to hammer, you know what I mean? Like if they're in quarters or if they're in cover 2, what immediately sticks out?
I mean, are you talking like in game, or you're talking about like, did we turn on the film to scout them, or?
Yeah, let's talk about let's do both, but let's talk about in game first, and then how you would scout it.
I mean, they kind of go hand in hand. So again, one of the things that we try to do, like I said, we carry a ton of formations, a ton of motions, a ton of different personnel groupings, and then we try to play that at lightning speed. And we do that for a couple of reasons, but the biggest reason we do that is we want to try to keep kids or teams in their base defense. And so we feel like one thing we get a good handle on is we can usually pick up on what teams' automatics are, right? What's your automatic check to empty? What's your automatic check to 3x1, multi-back, whatever. And we try to, as much as possible, more formation, motion, shift them into and out of automatics, because we want, again, I learned really quickly that I'm probably not going to be smarter than you, Coach Banks, or whoever the defensive coordinator I'm coaching against is. But I think along the way, I have been able to be smarter than 1 or 2 16, 17-year-olds, right? And so we're always trying to get them to essentially communicate on the fly, make decisions, and try to basically question what their coaches are telling them. And that's how we try and scheme up big plays. As far as like in game, what we're watching are probably like everyone's watching, right? Like we have a guy in the box with his eyes on the safeties. Okay, they're starting to really trigger downhill in the run game. We actually, one thing, I don't know if this is unique or not, but we always have a guy that's watching the opposing D line. And we will take a shot. His cue is to say, hey, they're tired, right? And so like 3 or 4 plays in a row where maybe they're not getting off the ball quite as well, that's when we'll take a shot. things like that. But, again, for us, a lot of our game plan is done in the weekend, and our whole game is scripted, ready to run by Wednesday. And we really don't deviate from that too much, to be honest, which probably allows us to play fast. So.
And that's one thing I will say, obviously scouting you and playing against ADM, there wasn't a whole lot that we weren't ready for in terms of base alignments. But then, like you said, you throw in those little wrinkles and you're second guessing everything that you talked about all week and putting kids in conflict. And when you got, like you said, a 16, 17-year-old or a first year varsity starter, like that can weigh on them. And all of a sudden they're in a spot where they're having to make a decision and you're taking advantage of it. So 100%. I agree.
Yeah. And I think, on that too, I guess, again, like I said, nothing we do schematically is super advanced. I do think our quarterbacks coach is really elite in the pass game, and he schemes up some really good ways to get guys up and downfield. But for the most part in the run game, we're running, pin and pull, and we're running zone read, and we're running power read and counter. It's the stuff that they've been running, wing T stuff, right? And so none of that is too elaborate. But what I want you to spend your whole weekend drawing our formations, right? And drawing our motions and spend, I just want to make your weekend suck, and I guess that's something that we've thought from a long time, is that kids can learn a formation in 20 seconds, right? Like we can install a new formation on Monday and they will have that down like this, right? I'm in here and I stand here on this formation. That takes absolutely no time and no skill to install, but to install a scheme and do it well, that's hard, so we try to keep our schemes the same, and we'll run them from June 1st until November, but we'll add formation, motion, new guys on the field, things like that all the time. So
Bob Jensen used to do that to us in Centerville. When we would, every time we'd play Mount Pleasant, remember they were like 3,000
27 different formations. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's when I stopped liking defense, right? But those offensive things can kind of fun. It's like tackle chess, right?
Didi.
Oh yeah. So one of the first things that you ever sent me, you had on the bottom of it, tough teams win, and that's something that's stayed with me, that I really enjoy. Where did that come from, and how do you define tough to your team?
Well, two parts of that. So it came from Randy Jackson, and Randy's kind of exploded obviously on the culture scene. But his book, Culture Defeats Strategy, was kind of the first book that I ever picked up, and it just really resonated with me. And his big thing was tough people win. And I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So I was at that time 25, 26, and I was like, well, shit, I'm going to just reach out to this guy. And so I formed a decent relationship talking to him and talking through that stuff. And when I got hired at ADM, I felt like we just, it's a school that they'd struggled, we're coming off an 0-9. And I just felt like we kind of needed a brand in tough teams win. It was something that, to be honest, I came up sitting in my classroom in Washington before I left, and just branded it. And the idea behind it was that we were going to be the best team in the state of Iowa at just responding to hard things, right? Playing the next play, moving on, next rep. And that started in the weight room that summer and just kind of carried on to everything we did. And so that was just kind of the philosophy. I think everyone measures toughness as like, I'm not going to back down to that guy. And there's some, a measure of that to some extent, but for us, it was always just being able to flush what happened, good, bad, or indifferent, and move on to the next play. So.
What books are you guys breaking down in the off season this year? To utilize with your group. Obviously, you've established kind of book studies over the last, I would say, decade or so.
Yeah, it's something I like to do. I enjoy reading. It's just kind of the way that I clear my head, and so as we've kind of taken this leadership journey with kids, and realize, as I was continuing to scramble and come up with new lessons, each month or each week for that I just found myself always just pulling shit out of the same 3 or 4 books, right? And it's like, okay, well, why am I reinventing the wheel here? And so then we started doing a book study. I started doing it my second year at ADM. No, actually, that's a lie. I did it, I guess, way back when I was at Washington. And it's evolved, but it's really always kind of gone through 4 books. So the big one we always do is Legacy. Legacy. I don't know if you guys read this, but the story of the All Blacks rugby team and the most successful professional sports program in the world and franchise in the world. And so that book's great. It literally starts off with the first chapter in it is, sweep the sheds, which is, basically your leader should be the last ones out of the locker room, make sure the locker room's clean. And it just kind of goes through every characteristic of what a good leader looks like. So I make sure every group gets that once in their 4 years. We do the energy bus, we do chop wood, carry water. And if we ever get to the 4th one, which I've only done twice now, we'll do the captain's class. Great book, not as great for a book study with kids. It's just a little bit lengthier read, but it goes into essentially the 12 greatest teams of all time and their leader in the traits that they embodied. So, but yeah, we cycle through those 4 and it's been good for me. And I'm sure that people out there are doing it better. But I think this getting kids to hear a different voice, it has been a powerful thing and they seem to enjoy it. So.
Okay. In each of your different places, how do you get football to drive the building and not just be a season? Because I think obviously with the programs you're at and you've been at, you've had success in all of them, and football tends to drive success in other activities as well. How do you get football to drive the entire building rather than just be a season?
I've thought about this a lot because I get asked that a lot. And I don't have the great answer as to how I make it important, but what I can tell you is it's really important to me. And I carry myself that way. And I think our kids then follow that. At some point, your kids become essentially the 17, 18-year-old version of yourself, right? And some of the things that you carry and you value. And so just the priority and the importance that we put on it, I think really goes a long ways. And then we talk about that a lot. I talked about, pushing the envelope and trying to fix things and change things along the way. And one thing we always talk about with anybody that will listen, as far as admin, community members, et cetera, is that in 3A Iowa, your football program is the front porch of your community, right? And right, wrong, or indifferent. And so we really try and live by that. And we hammer that into our kids too, that, basically not only are you setting the tone for your school year, but you really are kind of the face of your community, and playing football for us is important, and so that starts in the weight room, it starts in the classroom, all those things. And I do think, again, one thing that every school I've been at has going for it is it's not like I have this pod of football only kids, right? I just happen to have them first, and then they go out and play basketball and wrestle, and they go run track and play soccer, and then they play baseball. And so I think that since you're kind of the first one that they have each year, you really do get to set the tone and set the, the expectations as they carry those through other sports.
I wanted to jump in. What was the story about finding the old junk truck or whatever? You tell me the story about that.
Well, that's a 2-part story. The first part of it is I was driving a $40,000 truck with 3 kids under 3, and I didn't need to be doing that. The second part of that was I lived literally 3 blocks from our school, so I never drove in the, and when we drove anywhere, we took my wife's minivan with the kids. And then the kind of the last wrinkle to that was that I lived in one of the wealthiest and most look at me new stuff communities in the state of Iowa. So I don't love to be like everyone else. I like to be a little different. So found a 1978 F-150 and it was fun to drive around. So.
I thought it was a badass deal. I thought it was like a Bruce Freevert, type thing, or Ron Thomas, or, something like that, right?
It wasn't that. It was more just, it was just kind of like I said, a culmination of all those things. But I actually had to sell that truck, and now I'm back in a truck that I probably can't afford and shouldn't be driving, but it fits 3 car seats in it. So
it was a lot cooler than my Geo Metro. I'll throw that out. Right?
I mean, I don't know. I think you pull off that Geo Metro today,
dude. I maybe with a fork truck. All right, Didi.
Yeah, coach. So you've mentioned the weight room a couple different times. How important is the weight room to the success of the athletes? Not just football players, but all athletes, in your opinion?
I mean, I think it's unmatched, and I think you know that. I mean, I just feel like it amazes me. Like I said, this is the fifth school I've been at, and it just amazes me that we're in 2025, 26, and there's still schools out there that are struggling to get kids in the weight room or understand the importance of it, or you're battling with a basketball coach or a baseball coach that don't understand why your kids need to lift during their season. And I mean, it's just asinine to me, right? And going back to that tough teams win thing, and you talk about, essentially being able to respond. Well, there's literally no better place to develop that than in the weight room, right? You find me another place where you have 100 high school kids in one room, genuinely finding their limits and what they can push themselves to. And it's just something that I've always believed in. And I'll be the first to tell you that I didn't love it and believe in it too much when I was in high school, which is maybe why I believe in it more now, right? Those that can't do, coach. But I think it has really been an edge for us. And you know what? The other thing too is, we live in this instant gratification world. And I mean, there's nothing more instant gratification to a 16-year-old kid than when you can do a set of bicep curls and look at himself in the mirror, right? And see that tangible result. And, as far as in athletics and in the world we live in, it's really hard to find something like that, And so I do think I don't know. I mean, I could talk about the importance of the weight room for hours, but
Keep preaching, man. I love it.
Yeah. Again, you asked that question and I'm just like, well, I can't swear, but are you effing stupid? Of course it's important,
Okay, going along with the weight room though, and kind of my last question, right? So when you have a good weight program, or how important is the culture that is in the weight room into setting the tone for the rest of the school year, and how important is it culture in the weight room compared to the program's overall design?
Well, I think it's, again, you talk about football being the front porch, right? But freaking the weight room is the foundation, and so I think that I guess not just the intensity of the actual workout itself, because, and I'm probably in the minority, and Derek will judge me for this because I don't speak like most strength coaches, but I've become this big believer that the program, everyone has their amazing programs and all the cool lifts they're doing. And to be honest, I don't give two shits about that. I guess I've always believed that if you're hitting the core lifts, you're getting the kids in there 3 times a week, they're picking up heavy shit and putting it down, plus puberty, they're going to develop, right? And so for me, the biggest piece of the pie has just been how to get the kids there, and that goes right back to what you're talking about as far as setting the culture and setting the standard. Like if we're okay with Jimmy not coming to the weight room on Monday morning, but we're going to go ahead and start him in the basketball game on Tuesday night, then we have a systemic issue, and so I think just the weight rooms where you start with your accountability, your standards, your expectation for all programs. And we've been really lucky since I got here. So we didn't have a strength PE class in place. And again, probably one of the perks for coming to work for my high school principal, right? But we got that built and put in place. And we have an AD that is freaking phenomenal and just is hammering on, we have to fix this culture, right? And so amazingly, all of a sudden you have every single kid in your athletic department is in the weight room, and they're understanding how to work hard, and they're becoming a little bit more accountable human beings. And now all of a sudden you don't hear as many F-bombs walking through the hallway, right? And we don't have kids in the hallways tardy for class and so on and so forth. And again, does the weight room solve everything? No. But again, I just keep going back to that. There's nothing quite like it for a high school student.
How do you engage with like the other coaches, or the ones that may foster that negativity or whatever? But how do you work through those relationships in Garrison Carter today versus Garrison Carter back at Washington?
I mean, poorly probably, but no, I just one of my detriments, or maybe my good qualities, I don't know, is I really believe in what I believe in, and I don't do very well with people that get in the way of that. but I do think that, we're in the people business, right? And I think one of the skills you have to, if you're going to be a successful head coach, you have to have this ability to get people to follow you and understand your vision, right? And I think most high school coaches do that really well with kids. I think that you kind of hit that next level when you can do that with your peers and your coworkers, right? And I've been really fortunate that everywhere I've been, just happened to walk in at a time where it seemed like, not that I am some sort of have the answers or I'm a guidance provider, but it seemed like it was time to unify the group and pull them in the direction. And I've been fortunate enough that my vision and direction always seemed to be the one that we settled on. So I guess to answer your question, I think you got to be able to have hard conversations, right? And you got to be able to lay out the why and just provide so much reasoning that you're a moron if you argue with it, right?
Very, very Nick Saban-esque, right? High achievers don't like mediocre people, and mediocre people don't like high achievers. So,
Right.
at the end of the day, we're up here trying to compound wins, and we're not worried about, the back trotters that are reaching up at our ass, right?
Stay out of my way, right?
Yeah. Lead follower, get out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
dude. I'm gonna let you guys. I have to take my beagles out to go to the bathroom. Be right back.
Oh, yeah, shit.
Coach, I
You gotta get the beagles out. How could I forget?
I want to follow up on that, and I don't know all of the places that you've been, but it sounds like you have a lot of admin support, whether that be professional development stuff, the vision. How important is that to the success of the activities programs?
I think it's everything, you can have it, and this, you can have as many great ideas as possible, but you don't get the final say in a lot of things. And I think that's one of the things that I struggle with, and I'm sure you struggle with, is I know we need this to reach this, and there's one or two people standing in my way, right? And if they won't at least sit down in a room with you and hear then you're gonna, to be honest, you're probably in the wrong place, and I've just been I would say at 4 of the 5 schools I've been at, I was really, really fortunate to be with a group of administrators that understood that. And luckily, I've been super fortunate that most superintendents and principals I've had were former head football coaches. So that always has helped me along the way. I guess if that'd be advice to a young coach, you're looking for a place to start, look for that. So.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because, if you're talking to a young coach or somebody first starting off, what do you think young coaches need to hear more of?
Well, the first thing I think is ask questions. I think that we've all been there, like, especially in the world we live in now, right? You have all these huge personalities that putting out all these thoughts and everything all over social media. And I can imagine as a 22, 23-year-old starting out in this, how overwhelming and intimidating it would be to reach out to that person and ask them, hey, I saw you post this, or hey, I saw your team does this really well. But what I guess I've learned the most along the way is, with a few exceptions, I'm yet to meet a coach that doesn't want to foster those conversations and share what they know. And so that's my biggest thing is find the programs you want to emulate and freaking ask them how they're doing it, and I guess that seems to be a really good place to start. And again, like I talked about earlier, right, you just get that Rolodex of people that you can reach out to, and the sooner you realize that if there's a mistake to be made, somebody's probably already made it, and you can kind of work through that with them, I think goes a long ways.
That's awesome. Want to give you a chance here to pump up your clinic, because I've been lucky enough to attend it a few times, and I don't know why, but you've asked me to speak at it, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, man.
You already kind of talked about how it came out. What's your vision for it? And just tell whoever's listening a little bit about it, because it's a fantastic thing, man.
Yeah, so we're slightly rebranded this year. It's always been the Southeast Iowa Coaches Clinic. Now it's the Southern Iowa Coaches Clinic. We used to hold it at Honey Creek Resort down in Southeast Iowa, and we're actually moving to Osceola to Lakeside Casino for this year. The big thing about it is I guess the plug for it is it's going to be your down home atmosphere. And that's what it's grown where you're going to have 300, 400 coaches there every year. But we've always tried to have this vibe of we're going to bring in guys like you, Derek, that are going to be not only willing, but passionate about sharing what they know and kind of fostering those relationships. I like running my own clinic because I get to kind of vet the speakers myself, and going way back, the very first clinic I ever went to, I didn't know coaching clinics were a thing until I ended up at one, after my second year of coaching. And I was like, this is great. This is the team we play week 1. I'm going to go listen to, he's talking about it, supposedly talking about his offense. I'm going to go, great. I'm going to listen to all this. And I watched 15 minutes of his resume. And then I watched like 15 or 20 minutes of his kids' highlight tapes. And it just really rubbed me the wrong way. And again, I've always been I can do it, not necessarily better, but I can do it different kind of person. And this was another opportunity to do that. So you're going to get the guys that are going to give you stuff that's tangible that you can take back to your program. And then on top of that, we really wanted to create this like staff getaway type of deal, So we have 42 speakers coming in. The big thing about us is we're always going to put it at a place where, yes, we want you to come listen to the speakers and you're going to do that. But for me, like we always take our entire staff there and we hammer out, we go to the clinics, but then at night we have our staff meetings. One day we go as a staff and we golf. There's just something powerful, I think, about that bonding and that unity of if you can just pull your staff and put them in the same room, because I think that's when the magic happens, right? When you get a few beers in and you have all your staff, because how often do you get that where you have them all in a hotel room 2 hours away from their wives and you just have a chance to truly talk shop, and that's been a really good deal.
Jocelyn's got a great question here. What's one thing you wish the parents of your student athletes knew or would Dude, I'm trying to read it, but
I can read. I'm fluent in the English language.
All right.
That's actually a really good segue. So this is one thing that as I told you, I have an awesome AD here that's being super receptive to some of I would call them outside the box ideas. But one of the things we're actually doing right now is putting together a PowerPoint presentation that's essentially, here's what it takes to be a successful high school athlete. But that's going to the parents, and I think the biggest thing that, you hear this bullshit all the time, right? That the kids have changed. Oh, it's not the kids, it's the parents. That nobody's fucking changed. Sorry. But I do think that people are just uneducated. Right. And so we happened to go through a year this year where we had 13 seniors on our team and only 11 of those 13 seniors' parents did not play sports in high school. And so it's like anything, right? If you didn't do it and nobody teaches you how to do it or what it takes, then you're at a problem. So long-winded way of answering your question. Just get your kids there. I think that if I was a parent, what I would want day one from any coach is tell me your expectations. Where does my kid need to be, when and why? And then as a parent, just freaking get them there. Again, I go back to, you talk about the weight room. What's the key to success? Just show up, and I think that the more that parents can understand that and hold their kids accountable to that, especially as freshmen and sophomores, where it just becomes routine, then you're in a great place, So.
I'm going to let you guys ask the next questions, man. My eyes are a little bit blurry.
You're an old
We
coach.
couldn't tell.
I know, it's just old age, man.
I feel that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Coach Fry.
Yeah, as far as coaching philosophy, leadership, all that kind of stuff goes, I've asked a couple questions for young coaches, but what's something, a failure as a young coach that you made that immediately made you better once you realized what the problem was?
Well, I think the first thing, and you guys actually kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think it's really important that you carry yourself, that your sport and what you're in charge of is the most important thing in the world. right? Because I do think that your kids will follow that. But I had to learn, and I probably still need to learn, that as much as it's the most important thing in my world, it's not the most important thing in every one of your kids' worlds. And in order for the football program to be successful, basketball and wrestling and track and soccer and baseball, they need to be successful too, and so when I was a younger coach, I would always say all the right things. Yeah, I want our multi-sport athletes, but did I truly follow through with actually, my season ended, I sat down with a one-on-one meeting, I have this kid's ear, and I'll be the first to tell you that I wasn't great about, no, you're getting your ass out for a sport. And I think that's the biggest thing that's changed in my philosophy is just, again, you talk about the weight room stuff and getting coaches, right? If you genuinely support other programs and support and value kids and the things they like, then I think that kind of comes back around and reciprocates. So
What has football taught you about life, Garrison?
I mean, everything, right? Football's hard, right? I think it starts with accountability. It starts with, if you show up every single day and you do what you're supposed to do, the results will take care of themselves. But I think on more of a macro level, that the thing that's really cool about football and it's what has taught me is that if we're doing it right, there's a role for everyone, right? And it's kind of the one place where, at least in athletics, where that's true, right? Like if we're doing it right between special teams, offense, and defense, like there's 88 ways to get kids on the field. And I think that's kind of a microcosm to life, right? Like, we don't have to put square peg in a round hole. You find what you're good at, and then you put yourself around people that will allow you to use your talents, and I think that the game of football is a really good example of that.
And there's kind of one more question, and obviously it's coming, kind of ultimately from my side of things too, is with football being a kind of a year-round monster right now, we know that, all coaches know that, right? How do you take care of yourself personally, whether it's physically, mentally, whatever, to be able to have Garrison, the best Garrison Carter available, showing up for his kids on a daily basis?
Well, if you truly want to get into the saga of my life, right, that's probably one of the areas I struggled with the most, and probably why I needed this life reset as an assistant coach, because I just couldn't, I literally could not turn it off. Right. We got done playing in the Unidome, and Monday we were starting our off-season meetings, and we're right into staff meetings, and we just continue to, now we got open gyms and we got the weight room. And and again, it's easier said than done now that I'm not the head guy, but I want to believe if I ever get that opportunity again, that I'll try and do it this way. But I was super intentional about, I had our one-on-one meetings with our kids the week after the season ended, and then I turned it off. And to be honest, I didn't really even watch many bowl games or anything. And I really tried to turn it off until winter break. Is that long enough? I don't know. But that gave me kind of a month and a half of a reset. And then now I really am trying to be diligent about making sure I work out 30 minutes and I read 30 minutes every day. And if I do those things, then I feel like mentally and physically, I'm in a place where I can be a good father, good husband, good teacher, good coach. So.
Well, I'm going to take your advice. Obviously, I can't lift as much as you because I'm a weenie, right?
I mean, there's other options. They didn't stop making whiskey, Coach. You could look into that.
Dude,
anyways.
Good Lord, I'm talking about positive. No, I'm just teasing, man. But no, it's been amazing to have you on, man, because I've been one of your biggest fans since you've been going after it, man, and
Appreciate that.
It's been exciting, basically kind of seeing you here and there, and when you see Coach Knott's coaching tree, and I consider myself a Coach Knott coaching tree, you see how many of us are still going. It's fun. It's fun to see you guys, man, out there still rocking and rolling, and man, still got a lot of years left. Eventually I'm going to have to walk in with a freaking cane and shake it at you or something, when I'm super old and scraggly, but man, it's
Coach
exciting.
Banks, can I ask one more question?
You can ask 5 questions.
I got all the time in the world. I already put the kids in bed. So
You said something earlier, Coach, that really I've been thinking about this whole time. you were talking about your book study and how sometimes it's important for your athletes to hear from a different voice. So selfishly, I'm going to ask you right now, for all the Fort Madison guys that are going to listen to this, and that can be parents as well. In your opinion, what are some of the things that they should be focused on right now?
All right, you talking about as like a student athlete?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, loaded question, a million ways you can go with it, right? And again, this has probably changed. My answer to this now as a 37-year-old is different than would have been 15 years ago, but I really think it's important that you frickin' find something that allows you to just be a kid, right? And we get so worked up, I think, as coaches, get your ass off TikTok and go to bed. And I think the more that you do that, the more you're almost alienating yourself to when you really need to pull them in, And so I would say go be a kid. And then the other end of that is find the little thing you can do each day to get better. So I talked about the one-on-one meetings I do with our kids. And one of the things that I think has turned out to be pretty powerful that we stumbled upon is essentially we build this massive list of everything that every athlete needs to work on, right? From upper body strength to lower body strength to speed, to quickness, change of direction, leadership, whatever, right? And we have this massive Rolodex of words. And we go through this, a postseason meeting, and we talk about, how the season go and what are our goals for next year. And I always make them pick 5 things from that list that they personally need to work on. Okay. So whatever, I need to get faster straight line speed, and I need to work on my change of direction, and I need to get better at catching the ball, and whatever. And then we literally we get their index card out, and we find something that they can do every single day that will chip away at one of those goals. And the whole idea behind it is it like a 10-minute or less process. But if I'm willing to do that every single day, I'm going to see massive results when I show up in August. So for instance, like if I'm slow, right, and I want to get faster, we just come up with, okay, so what's something I can do every single day? And if I do this every day, commit 2 minutes a day to it, I will be faster in August. So what, like for instance, I coached a kid at ADM named Brevin Dahl, who plays at Iowa now. And I specifically remember him as a freshman. And he said, "Coach, I want to be the fastest kid in our program." So, okay, so what can we do? Because we're already lining up and running sprints in class. We're already doing these things. He's like, you tell me. And so we came up with he was going to do 3 sets of 10 on the glute ham machine every single day. And he did that every single day. That took him 2 minutes of time, but he committed to it every single day. And he ended up winning 3 200-meter state championships. Right. And we always talk about it with like push-ups with kids, right? Like if I said, "Hey man, I need you to do 50 push-ups," and you did 50 push-ups over the course of the day, well, you're going to show up tomorrow and look exactly the same, right? You're not going to be much stronger. You're not going to look much different. But if you do 50 push-ups every single day for 300 days until next season starts, and you do 15,000 push-ups over the course of the off season, you're going to look, feel, be substantially different, right? And you can do that, I think, with everything. So long-winded answer there, but I think you find the 1 or 2 weaknesses or things you want to improve on, and you find something that's actually tangible to do. I think that small incremental goals are very sustainable. So.
We're nearing the nitty gritty, man. You got to give shout outs out there to that beautiful wife and those kids.
I did. I'm married. Anyone that asks me, I'm married to Queen Jessica. Just giving her shit today. I was like, I got to be on this show tonight. And she's like, "That's great. I need you to drive to Des Moines. I got to get these things for my classroom. Then I need you to put the kids to bed." And it's like, okay, so my life has changed. But no, she's amazing. And you guys, I mean, everyone that's sitting in here understands that, right? Like I told you that I really don't have anything I could do in life other than coach. But if I didn't have her in my life, that wouldn't even be a reality, And so just being with her and being with somebody that's level-headed and kind of keeps me in check. And she certainly keeps me humble. I told her I was going on this podcast with you tonight, and she goes, "Who gives a shit? You're whatever, like get to do the dishes." So that, and then we have 3 kids. We have a 6-year-old named Canton. And then we had a twin boy and girl that, like I said, were born week 9 of 2022. So they just turned 3. And they keep us busy. So it's been a little unique couple of years, but it's been really fun. You know, I'm realizing that I'm a little bit more than a football coach. I'm getting really damn good at playing pig on a Nerf basketball hoop and some of that stuff. So,
You know, that's pretty awesome. The next time we'll have you on the same night as we get Coach Jim Knott.
yeah, that's why I'm serious. Not that anyone wants to hear what I have to say, but I'd love to get on with, if you could get Coach Knott on, or if you could pull Randy Schrader on, I'd love to get on and learn some more stuff from those guys, or talk stories or any of that stuff. So.
All right. Any shout outs from other dudes?
Always
Yeah.
got to get one to the wife and kids, and yeah, it's just how it goes, man.
Absolutely. Just kind of on a different note for sure, like wives and kids and all that, but just want to send our thoughts out to the Fairfield community, just kind of reading online tragedy that happened there, and don't know too many details, but just thoughts and prayers with them.
100%. We're out.